Bye. And
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with Ori. Hope you guys are okay. Sorry, I missed you guys on Monday. It's just been a crazy time. And sometimes you lose track of everything. Today's edition is going to be a special edition because it's going to be about what we call the shadow people. And I don't know. Hold on. Give me 1 second because I'm not really sure if
not going upstairs.
my counterpart is going to be on with me or not.
And you like I said, you're not going upstairs.
So, 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. 1 second.
Right now, I'm at the show.
Okay. Anyway, today's episode is going to be about people, what they call the shadow people. Sometimes people mistake them for spiritual beings that come by, or sometimes even ancestors. But shadow people are the type of people that come by that sometimes we see in the corner of our eye. They just go by really fast. Those are what is considered shadow people. And they're also people that sometimes you can be laying in bed and you happen to look through the darkness and you can see someone, or you can see a shadow of something move. And those are shadow people. Now, the reason the shadow people appear most of the time, one, we have a good and we have a bad side. We have a gentle and a kind side, but there is a part of us that either lives in darkness or lives in the shadows. So they are a reflection of who we are, just a darker part of us or a hidden part of us. So they hide in the shadows. Now, shadow people can come when people's houses are disorganized or cluttered. I'm gonna warn you right now, guys. I ordered something to eat, and when it comes, they're gonna knock on the door, so I have to get up and get that. So when you hear knocking on the door, I just want you to know because this is like something that was thought of like at the moment. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. So shadow people are that. Sometimes we're arguing with our partners or we're arguing, and that brings shadow people. Sometimes when you're emotional and you're sad or you've gone through some traumatic stuff, there's shadow people. Sometimes when you are mad at yourself, shadow people appear. Sometimes when you have, like I said, clutter brings shadow people all the time. And if you have a child in your house, the child will be the first one to notice the shadow people, because whether there's light out or whether there's not, shadow people still appear. You just can't really see them unless you are spiritually inclined, where you can see very well. But shadow people are always around us. I think that sometimes we take our own selves for granted. And when we do that, what we find is that the shadow that lives within us comes out. But it's not because it wants to cause you problems. It's more like it wants to get some type of acknowledgement. And it's not always in a bad way. Sometimes it's in a good way. Now, do shadow people exist that are not of light? Of course, just like anything in the world that is of light and darkness, there are shadow people that are of darkness that come to torment you and to drive you crazy. It's not something that has been sent, it's just something that is. So you have to learn how to use a coping mechanism when it goes to that, because sometimes people freak out. Sometimes people freak out when they hear things going on, and it's better when you're able to talk to them, because if you talk to the shadow people and you're able to communicate with them, most of the time, if you just tell them to leave you alone, they will leave you alone. But I warn you. Hold on, guys. Give me 1 second. They didn't knock the bell. Hold on. Hello. Okay. Here you go. Thank you. Have a great night. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, so sometimes, like I said, the shadow people appear, and sometimes they can do harm, because sometimes they're kind of like in between of shadow people and poltergeists. So you don't really know what you're dealing with unless you talk to them. The shadow people, all you need to say to them is that you want them out of wherever space you're in, and they most of the time will leave. But like I said, you cannot always be afraid of shadows, because sometimes if you are really into learning about your inner self, your spiritual self, your linear self, and you learn about all different types of magic, whether it is water magic or jar magic or earthly magic or blood magic, whatever you learn, the one thing that you first learn is that before midnight, before 12 noon, your shadow is behind you. And after 12 noon, where the sun is completely up, your shadow is in front of you. So in some cultures, the shadow is fed to fortify you, to give you strength, to push you, to move you. You don't have to do blood magic. There's many things that you can do. You can pray for your shadow. You can pray for yourself. I know there's a lot of people out there, and I've been watching a lot of TikTok, and you hear a lot of people, and there's a lot of inconsistencies, because people who read the Bible and they're so involved in the Bible, they believe that their way is the only way. Unfortunately, I don't see things that way, because I came from a religious background, and that religious background didn't always pan out the right way. So the way that I think, or the way that I do things, it's a little bit out of the box, but it doesn't mean that it's out of the box without belief. I believe in God. I believe in God. So, there's just certain things that hold on. There's certain things that I actually watch carefully, and I observe it carefully, and I examine it very carefully before I even talk about it, or if it's something that I've experienced. I've experienced shadow people where, when I was a young kid, and they used to pull on my legs or my arms and stuff when I was asleep, and that used to scare the crap out of me. I used to always, I was always afraid to to say things or watch scary movies at a certain time at night because I felt that something was coming. And some people can catch panic attacks, and some things can come, and we can bring this stuff. And this is why today is what I call this a special edition, because we're not talking about residual spirits. We're not talking about memory spirits. We're not talking about anniversary spirits. We're talking about shadows that actually do exist. Now, sometimes there are just shadows that we see from the corners of our eye. Sometimes there's shadows that we see in the front of our eyes, just, like a grayish or kind of like a dim light that goes by us. Sometimes the shadow will walk through you and you just get this crazy chill, like that's uncontrollable. But like I said, if you're able to talk or pray to the shadow and let them know that you choose not to participate in whatever it is that they're doing, they should leave you alone. But if you notice that they don't leave you alone, take a good look at your home. Take a good look at it. Take a good look at your rooms. If you have a child, look at your child's room. If you have other children, look at their rooms. Look at your kitchen. If you're the type of person that are used to leaving the kitchen a mess, and wait till the next day, then you're going to attract any type of negativity. And the key to attracting positive energy and positive vibration, because everything is based on vibration, is one, taking care of your health, going to the gym, doing something. Two, eating right, because eating right fills you, and it also fills your spirit, and it fills your shadows. So it completes you in many ways. And meditation is very important. A lot of people think that meditation, you have to sit down for 5 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours. And that's not really so, right, Dr. D? You don't have to stay in meditation for hours. You can just meditate for 5 minutes a day.
True.
To align yourself with the spirit. All right?
That's correct.
Okay, now, why don't you give me a quick synopsis of what your view is on shadow people?
Well, you have tell me if you can hear me good. Or if
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. My view on shadow is you got your shadow self, which people don't understand. I miss that a little bit. You have your shadow self, and then there's other people that are shadows that are stuff behind, as we discuss, from different things that have been, meaning house, belongings, that may be some kind of anger and emotion that was attached to a doll or a toy or a chest or something that had emotions that either are sad, of anger. Back in the day, I'll give you an example. People used to want to harm people. So they had this malicious intent, and they would leave that item that absorbed all that negativity in it and bury it in the baseboards or the wooden floor. They would open the baseboard back in the day and bury it under the floor in the house, so that malicious things would happen to the people that were in the house.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
But earlier what I said was that shadow people are not residual spirits, and they're not spirits that are sent. They're spirits, they are a reflection of us. Now, if there are shadow people, which actually it makes sense what you just said, because they are like poltergeists. Some of them can be like poltergeists. So, and when we're dealing with poltergeists, we're dealing with not just someone who was alive. We're dealing with objects. We're dealing with the shadows holding on to something, like you just said. People bury stuff, and some people live miserable lives, and it's been known to they bury the money. And then the spirit keeps showing, it's like this person moved in, they couldn't handle the spirits in the house, so then they sell, and then another family moves in, but sometimes their spirit is so clean that the spirit pushes them to find what they left behind. Right? So I agree with you when it comes to that. But so go on, because I know there's more scientific ways that you can actually dissect shadows.
Well, what I was saying also, if I sound a little funny, let me know. I'm doing a mic thing. So what I'm saying about people leaving those things, sometimes it's ancestral. There's shadows, but also they're positive ghosts or energies or beings, if you will, being that pull. We're also talking about shadows that are different dimensions as well.
Okay.
They are maybe your future self in that mode of negativity. And yourself can send that negative energy, go back to your past to correct it, to make you a better person. So you're not so bitter. So the shadow force is not overflowing your life in the future. So that's what I've seen or taking a peek when you're working with people during that time, that the future self of negativity, meaning the other side, is very bitter or feel they're very angry or feel, don't take this wrong now, the shadow self does help your lighter self come in balance, which people don't understand that how that it helps you get to a new level. So maybe you want to evolve quickly, but in this other level, this other level, you're not there yet because of the anger, the resistance, and you're not understanding why that shadow self is who it is in the future from the past. You understand, or you
No,
don't
I
understand?
I I do. But do you believe that the shadow people have the ability to open up portals for you?
Mm,
Or maybe they
some.
or maybe they came through a portal and they stayed because they don't know how to get back.
There you go. Bingo. Bing, 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 bing.
Okay.
I'll give you applause.
Okay. Because I know that we have the power, everybody's talking about the awakening, the awakening, the awakening, the awakening, the awakening. The thing is that some people look at the awakening as being sinful. You need to, with everything that's going on in the world, we need to cling on more to Jesus and, this and that and the third. Now, uh, people know how I feel. I believe in God. I don't know too much about Jesus, so I'm not even going to go there. I just go by what I know, by God directly. Um, but I know that spirituality and spirits and demons and ghosts and things like this have existed from the beginning of time. From the
Ashe.
beginning of time. Like I know that there are angels that can come into your house and transform into shadows, because angels can transform into anything. And people think that they can't, but if you really read and you really know God, you know that God is not going to choose someone who's angelic and pure at heart to give you a message. He's always going to use someone that needs the light, whether it's a prostitute, whether it's a homeless person, whether it's a junkie, whoever and whomever, and sometimes the shadows appear because they are kind of like they're kind of like if you may say, like kind of like a dummy, and you pull the string, they pull the strings, and the shadow, sometimes the shadow wants to connect, sometimes the shadow wants to touch you, but we live we live a life where we're so ostracized about things that happen, things that have happened, and things that we've been taught. And what we don't realize is that we're not walking forward, we're walking backwards. You know what I'm saying?
Ashe.
Religion was created by man, and we don't know if God is an alien. We don't know what God is. We pray to something that gives us hope of something better. And everything that was written by man. But at the same time, um, how do you know what it is that's going on? Because if you pray, and you constantly tell a dollar bill that you're grateful because you have it, a dollar bill that is made out of paper that came from a tree, so it is a living thing, regardless of what shape it's taken. It is a living thing. So the paper, the ink that's on the paper is a shadow of what the paper is. So if you pray to that, or you talk to it and you tell it how grateful you are, money will multiply. So what is it that we're asking for? And who is it that we're asking it to? You can say to me that you believe in God until you're blue in the face, but when you're dealing with spirituality and you're dealing with shadow people or just shadows, shadows can sometimes come and become a hand that they lay on your chest, and then they call it, what is it that they call it? Sleep paralysis. But in reality, it's also a type of a shadow that comes on top of you because you're well illuminated. It's also a proven fact, scientific fact, that the body rises, the spirit of the body rises 3 to 4 feet when you sleep. Scientifically proven. So if the spirit rises 3 to 4 feet, okay, what makes people think that in between that layer there's no shadows?
I don't know. Arrogance. Because out of darkness came light. I mean, but that's just me. It says it in the Bible.
Yeah, but I think what you
So
said earlier to me on a personal basis about peeling like an onion. Remember that? What you said?
layers. Yep. Layers and layers and layers to get to who you are, and what you really want to be.
I think that
We'll get there.
well, yeah, I think we're well on our way, because we've always been spiritual, and a lot of people that are listening, a lot of people that are on here, if there's anybody on here, and
Yeah.
you hear a lot of people on TikTok, that and many other places, and they are very amazed of how the awakening has affected them. But you know what I find, and I don't find it to be hilarious, I just find it to be sad and disturbing, that a lot of the people that have been having awakenings that has not been going well have been people who supposedly are church going people. They become angry, they're becoming belligerent, they're becoming self-absorbed, they're becoming too involved in what it is, what they believe. Well, if you can't believe in Christ, then you can't believe in anything else. But you cannot expect people to believe that Christ is God, because he's not. And they say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Yes, they're the Trinity, but they're not the same people. So it's funny how some people use Christ as my Lord and Savior. He is my Father, and yet, when they are trying to chastise you because of what you're looking at or what you tell them that you're seeing, they go and they refer to the Old Testament. Then they talk about God. Well, God said this, and God, yes. You people out there that are really into the Bible, or people who are not into the Bible, listen, I challenge you, read the Bible from the back. Start from Revelation and move yourself up, all the way up to the First Testament and then the Old Testament. And you will realize that when you read from the back to the front, you will see everything that Christ taught. And none of it is what is going on in the world right now, because everybody wants to be Christ-like. Well, no, let me rephrase that. Anybody who is spiritual is not Christ-like, although there is a line or there is a number of gifts that we are given, and it has been set. But yet, if we see shadow people, we see the dead, automatically, we are worshiping the devil. But if you read from Revelations and you go through the part when Jesus came about, and then you go back and you go to the Old Testament, you realize that God was a monster. God was a monster. God will destroy you without even thinking about it twice. He destroyed millions of people, and he did so many things, and he allowed so many things. So you read about that. I mean, come on, if you really take the time to read about it, it's supposed to be the Bible is supposed to be a love story. But it's not the Bible that's a love story. It's the part when supposedly his son came. It's when it becomes a love story. And the question that I pose sometimes to people is, how many times do you think that the Bible has been rewritten? Not this Bible that we know of. How many times has this planet not been destroyed?
Many times, from different cultures.
Exactly. And how many times has a book been written, and by many species?
1,000,000 times. Right.
Exactly. So, I mean, you go to history. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I would say when you write something, you're going to always make one race look bigger or better, or beings, I should say, than the other. It's got to have something, some drama to make you want to go back and read it. So they got to make it lively. Certain parts of the Bible are just but poems. But a collective gotten together and reorganized that Bible and made a decision. There's more books to the Bible. I used to be a Mormon. We had this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no longer a Mormon, without a doubt. But I used to challenge the deacons, of course, about the other parts of the Bible and why they were not admitted. Now, the Mormons have their own Bible. And when I asked them about that, I said, now you got no books in the Bible. So you got these that are handpicked from Joseph Smith, right? Correct. What about the other parts of the Bible? Why don't we add them? And I was told, Bishop, we don't need them. Only Joseph Smith put. I said, that is so naive. Because when the Bible came out, it was the First Testament. Then you have the other New Testament, right? So why doesn't it improve? And why did these other books that have been around longer than your Bible be added into the Bible? So, of course, I'm challenged and upset people, but that's okay. I want you to think. I just don't follow anybody. So I'm always challenge what I don't understand.
No.
And when I don't like it, I pick up.
I don't. You know what? I don't. You know me. I don't really challenge people about the Bible, because the reality of life is this. Okay, I've read the Bible. I have read the Torah. I read the Quran. I read the Quran to this day. I read the Quran. Yes. I have read the Bible. I have read other religious books, or they're not really, I wouldn't call them religious books. I would call them more like they're books that come with instructions of how they feel that you should live your life. But the most important pages of why, and this is the biggest thing that we're dealing, and we're not off the topic of shadow people. Okay, we're in the same topic, because at the end of the day, we have to figure out exactly where these shadow people come from and know that they're not just a shadow that we have. They're a shadow of what we either were or what our forefathers were, or what we were in our incarnations. And they
Right.
follow into this incarnation.
Correct.
Children can attract shadow people. Animals can attract shadow people.
Correct.
Okay, because dysfunction attracts them. When you're worrying about finances, it attracts them because you're constantly worried about something. When people call you to stress you out because of something, and you make their business your business, and you feel that you have to help them, that also creates a lot of shadows, because not only are you uh, making the shadow appear, you're also ingesting the shadows that they've put on you.
Correct.
So then it not only becomes a shadow that you can talk to because it's your shadow, it also becomes an annoying shadow that doesn't want to go away because until you resolve this person's problem, which I don't get. But back to what I was saying, sometimes people say, and I used to think this way, that the Bible contradicts itself, but the Bible really doesn't contradict itself. The problem with the Bible is that if you left all the books, those 28, was it 28 books that were deleted from the Bible? If I'm not mistaken, 28.
I thought it was more, but okay. We'll go with that.
Well, let's just say 28. I don't know exactly if it was 28 or 38, but I know it was with an 8. Whatever books were deleted from the Bible, okay, hey, Kat. How are you? Welcome. And they leave when I see them. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Sometimes there's a shadow, and then you walk into a room, and then they leave. Because they're not there to hurt you. They're just there. But like I said, I used to think the Bible contradicted itself. But if you really think about it from Enoch, if you read the part of Enoch, it's like minimal, but really it's not. The book of Enoch is big, but they removed it. Why?
Right.
Because they don't want you to know that God was a monster.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Well,
Everything in life.
Okay.
Everything in life can evolve, right?
Correct.
Anything in life can evolve. People, humans right now, doctors, they're mixing all types of genetic, blood types and cloning different types of animals. Why? Why? What is it so important that you're trying to create a new species of animal? What is it so important why you want to clone people? Because whoever thinks that they're not cloning people, you're out of control. They've been cloning people from the day they cloned sheep.
Hello.
And even probably before then, because babies born in a test tube, that's a form of cloning.
Hey.
We know that. The one thing that Trump said was China is building a military, and they got all these people that look alike because they're cloning them for war. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? You understand? If these people are clones, you don't got to pay them. You don't got to pay them. They're being cloned to do one thing, to create war. Okay? So at the end of the day, no matter what you believe in, you need to believe more in yourself. Do you agree? Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Because I think that people have been suffering eternally along the years because of what our forefathers or our parents or our grandparents injected into our heads of how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to act and how we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to do this and how we're supposed to do that. When at the end of the day, you know, spirituality has been around for a long time. And you know, there was a point where midwives, now it's what is it, doulas.
Now, there's different doulas are different than the midwives. The midwives actually help deliver the baby and do rituals and birthing, where the doulas basically have a birthing plan and they're just there to assist them with the baby, how the baby come out, so it's everything informed. But the midwives are different because they do medicine and they do the reading of the bellies. These back in the day. I'm talking about ancient times.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Before, midwives were midwives. Now they're called the doulas because they are. The only thing is they don't. It's, if you really think about it, you just don't do the other stuff. You do,
correct. Yeah,
but
I
other
do.
people don't. Other people
Right.
don't. So they
Okay.
just stick to what the book says. Okay, this is what an doula is. Um, Look, at one point, were were just as important as the priest, as the
Yes.
minister in the 1800s, 1700s. And then, you know what, then some idiot decided that they were witches, and
Mm-hmm.
then the midwives were killed as witches for practicing witchcraft, when in reality they were using medicine, herbal medicine, to heal people and heal the women, because midwives were not just about, you know. And I believe that anywhere you go, you're going to see shadows that are left behind. And they're, like I said, they're not residual spirits, they're just shadows. And I believe that sometimes when we do magic, because there are witches in the world that practice, you know, the earthly magic, and sometimes blood
Mm-hmm.
rituals, and they open up portals, and sometimes these shadows come out and they can't find their way back. They just need a
All right.
portal, and they need someone who is filled with light to help them to move
Got you.
forward to another
Right.
dimension, to go back to their dimension. But the thing is that we're so focused on the past and things coming back from the past. What about shadows that come from the future?
That's what I was talking about. That's why I said we can bring shadows from the future to correct ourselves so we don't get that dark. But what I want people to understand, not all shadows are bad. The shadow that is bad, that is how you look at it. In a state of being, when you get, there's what we say is good and evil, but in reality, that good and evil, it's different. How do I put this? It's different. The judging is that we judge. And when you judge that dark shadow self for being evil, basically you're judging and basically you're out of balance. And then you say, "Oh, I hate that. I hate that my shadow self." Why do you hate? Because it has a lesson and a blessing for being in your life or being and showing you guidance. Don't hate it, embrace it. Not saying going into the dark side, but appreciate the darkness and what the lesson is coming to you for you. That's why, yes, they do come from the future. They do have guidance and sit down and showing you their outline. They're out there like, boom, here I am. What you gonna do about it? Now you're gonna change or you're gonna go that way because you can get even uglier. See that ugly face?
You know, no. What I'm thinking about with what you're saying is, and I do agree. You know, I think that there are a lot of people out there that I know that are very gifted, that they don't really know what's going on with them, and they don't realize that they have shadows that mimic them. And sometimes people can say, "Oh, dude, I saw you the other day,"
Oh,
and it wasn't you. You know, so I just believe that sometimes a double ganger can be a shadow. It may seem as if it's your double, but not. It's not always your double. Sometimes it is a shadow. You know, because I don't look at double gangers as being a shadow, because in my lifetime I've met 3 people in my lifetime. One in Newark, one in one in Newark, one in Miami, and one, I think it was in Colombia that looked identical to me. So they say that we have a double or a triplet, and I believe that all over the world we have a double. But like then again, there are such things as shadow people. Now, what I was saying, there are people who are very gifted who can see things that nobody else can see, and they don't realize that that the shadow that mimics them is showing them what's happening in front of them or what's happening internally with those people that don't like them. And sometimes you become paranoid, sometimes you become angry, sometimes you become like, I don't want to do this, f this, f that. But if you feed into that, at the end of the day, you lose yourself. There's
True.
such things as
You do.
there's such things as angels. There are such things as angels. Not everybody has the ability to see them.
Correct.
I can honestly say that I've read, in all the years that I've been reading, and I mean I've read thousands of people, and you know that since you've known me. Okay, so I've seen the Virgin Mary over some people's heads, and it makes me very emotional. I can't see, like I can see her, and I just have to put my head down because the light is so beautiful that I can't. I feel that it's a lack of respect. Have I seen angels? Yes. Do I understand what their purpose is? Whatever reason they're here for a reason and a season, just like we are. We are here for a reason and a season. We
Yep.
just sometimes don't know how to let go of the season.
True. Because we
So
don't want to. We like staying in that funk, just like I said. But also a shadow self can bring depression for you to learn from what you need to do to separate from depression. But I
yeah,
know people don't think that. Depression can come from your future self to help you understand what you need to do, your goals while you're in that state, how to get out of that depression to go up and go in and be in another level. I'm just saying. It
no,
just
I agree. I agree. Remember, I started to do the biofeedback with you, and then it just changed a lot of things within me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm still forgetful. I'm dipsy like that. I forget shit, but other than that, no, like nothing else really bothers me. Like I don't go into this full-fledged depression, I used to. I don't go into this panic attacks. I haven't had one in a long time, so I don't really worry about that stuff. And just things that were really constant in my life. I don't feel that. So, do I see shadows in my house? Of course I do. My house is very well lit. I have candles going everywhere in my house. It's like a church here, and the altar in my back there. But you know what? I can sit in the sofa and watch TV all night. I can see shadows walk through my house. I can see them come from outside into my home.
mhm.
And they'll look at me and they will walk by. They will bow their head like we used to have to do when we walk by people when we were little. And then they walk through. And I don't say anything because I know that they're not here to bother me. I know that there have been times where there has been uh, shadows that have come into my home where I would actually go get a light and a candle. I mean, I would get a candle and I would get a glass of water and I would pray for it and I would ask for it to be guided to where it needs to come to, it needs to go, and then it will go. That's why I know that
Mhm.
it didn't mean me any harm. But I want people to understand though. Don't think just because some shadows don't wish you harm that you're not going to be harmed by a shadow person. You will, if you don't understand it. If you walk into a room and you see a shadow and the shadow goes away, the shadow meant you no harm. If you're
Right.
working, let's say Kat, she sews. So you're working and you're sewing and you're sewing and you're sewing, and all of a sudden you just close your eyes for a minute and you open your eyes and you see something run by. Most likely it's the shadow person. And are they there to hurt you? No, because if they walk by you, they're not there to try to hurt you. You understand? Sometimes there are shadow people that stay in your house, lingering in the shadows to cause more chaos than what is already being caused. Every time you
Ashe.
have a partner that doesn't trust you and goes through your shit and calls you out and says different things to you, and you argue, there's always going to be shadow people. And they're always going to be there until you learn the lesson, which is what? Communication. Communication is key, which is what we don't have. We speak, but what we talk is shit because we don't have,
Clarity.
we are not at the proper vibration. We're not. We're getting there and it's slow, but we're not there yet. So therefore, because we're not at the proper vibration, we're not elevated as much as we think we are. You know what I'm saying? There are many pastures, and I have to keep saying it because it's reality. You know, dudes, there's stuff going on in the world. Yes, Revelations, whoever, the prophets, whatever, you know, Notre Dame, whomever, there have been many prophets and they still are. But the bottom line is there are people out there that are playing God. It's not that God is coming and God is going to destroy. No, there are people who are playing God. The 1% is playing God because the 1% doesn't need money. They just want power. So what do? Okay, Revelation says, well, this is going to be this way, and this is going to be that way, and this is going to be this and that way. But guess what? Look at what happened when this epidemic started. Nobody was driving, nothing was going on, and the sky cleared up. The ozone layer healed itself. The oceans that
Right?
were polluted turned blue. China
Yep.
was clear. New York City was
Mhm.
clear. All these things
Italy.
that had pollution. Why? Do you think that that's just the earth healing itself? No, I think that it's a combination of spirituality and common sense. Because
There you go.
without common sense, your spirituality is worthless. It is. It's worthless. You can read about it in the book. You can read as many books as you want to read, you know, and you can tell yourself, well, you know, this and this and that. At the end of the day, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing? You are doing absolutely nothing but chasing your tail, going backwards. Every time you take a man back, what are you doing? You're walking backwards. Every time you say, I'm never going to do this, and then you do it. That's why I always say, I never say never. I always say whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. Maybe I don't like that candy, but tomorrow I may like it. Right. You never know. It's all in the wrapping. So the reality is that, you know, we have to understand that that I see. Yes. Kathy, I have to agree with you. I mean, I've seen the face, but I've only seen a couple of angels, but I've actually seen one that I've seen when I was a little kid and I always saw him. That he looked like Jesus, but he wasn't. You know, I thought he was the devil, but he wasn't. So people can see. People think that people are not able to see. People are able to see. Hi, Corales. Good evening. So my thing is, if you see a shadow walk by you and it doesn't scare you, then it's not there to harm you. If you see something and it's bothering, and you see it and it's not going anywhere, you tell it to leave, and you tell it, you know, you don't belong here, or I choose not to participate in whatever you're going to do. They will leave, but if they don't leave, then pray on it. Pray on it. You know, it's very important that people understand that shadow people exist, that shadows exist, that sometimes they can bring you happiness, but they can cause a lot of chaos too.
Ashe.
So unless you're prepared mentally, you know, and I'm not talking about scripturally, like everybody's like, oh, well, I'm prayed up. Well, you know what? Good for you. Good for you. You're prayed up. Good for you.
Oh
You
gosh.
know, I just say assalam. Hey, you all prayed up. Good for you. But at the end of the day, what's the sense of being prayed up and walk around with the Bible under your hand and you're going to judge everybody else?
Hello.
At the end of the day, you're prayed up for what? And which God are you serving? The one up there or the earthly one? Which one are you serving?
Right.
Do you understand? So we need to learn to walk the walk and talk the talk. Yeah, communication is key. And you need to be, yeah, comprehension. You're absolutely right. Once we learn to comprehend the fact that we are spiritual beings, spiritual beings, that we are interdimensional. That's the key. We are interdimensional, that we have the ability to go back and forth into time with this. That we don't have to spend hours of meditation to go and travel because our spirit travels already. And that not everything that goes bump in the night is going to hurt us. Because sometimes it can even be you. It can be me in the future coming to this plane to try to warn me about something that's coming. Yeah. And a lot of people need to learn that. And people, yeah, you get it because you know about dimensional travel. And you've been talking about dimensional travel since the early 90s when people were not even at your level thinking about this stuff. You know, now is when the government is willing to say, oh, there's aliens exist. Well, I've been talking about aliens since I was a little kid. I've been talking about dimension portals that I see opening up, but people don't understand that, and they fear because that's what the church has instilled in them, fear.
There you go. Bing, 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 bing. You got it.
Yeah. If you believe in God, then you don't have to fear anything. Well, guess what? To me, I look, I walk by faith, not by sight. I'm not perfect, but God is the biggest comedian I ever met. God will knock you on your ass. God will knock you on your ass. Okay. He'll take everything away from you. He will make you suffer. And then to turn around and give you more. But you know what? Make me suffer. Don't give me no more. Just leave me alone. That's it. I'm done. And it's not a matter of not having faith. I have faith. My faith is strong, but don't play games with me and then expect everything to be okay. No, I've already been down that road quite a few times, losing everything and starting over. I don't want to go through this shit again. So this time, I'm looking for nourishing the God within me.
All right.
Just like you are. Living the God within you. The God is within you. And that's what people need to understand, because in scriptures, it says it over and over and over again. Do you not know that you are gods yourselves? We're not saying that we're not saying we want to play God. There is a higher being than us, but we are superhuman. But we just don't know that we are, because we're so busy complaining and worrying about the small stuff that everything else seems so far away from us that we actually make it and believe that we're not going to get to it. And I think sometimes the grays are here to remind us, I call them the grays, but the shadow people, they're here to remind us that you can reach any level you want. Because if they can appear, if they can come from another dimension and just appear anywhere and walk by you, because to me, I believe we're living in a dual dimension. Dual.
Interrupt that. I'm going to go even a step further. We live in a multi-dimensional galaxies. Galaxies. I didn't say galaxy. Galaxies. Multi-dimensional. Right. Got to put the IES on there. It's not singular. It's plural for you guys out, those English teachers out there, for them to understand. And then the multi. So they got to understand that too. So yes, it's a lot of multi-dimensional and different levels too. So right now, this dimension Listen, Mr. Ham. I'm sorry, y'all. My my little man wants to be in the show too, even though
Dude, not a little man. It's a big ass dog.
he's my baby. Um, I was saying there's many dimensions that are very important for us to understand, even with the dark shadow self. All right, Bubble, I'm gonna put you down. Get down. Get down. Get down. And you brought a bird in here. Jesus. I'm sorry. Um, all live. Just all live. A dead bird. Okay. Going through that, like the multi dimensions and understanding many galaxies are very important for us to understand because through them there's different channels and darks. Just like we were talking about, the everybody saying about the other beings like Centurions. There's dark Centurions too, as well as light Centurions. There's dark reptilians as well as light reptilians.
Mhm.
There's a multiple of beings that have dark and light, and they some come to help, some come to steal. That's why, in a way, they want this to be a dark universe, but we keep popping up and raising the level so it is not dark. Because that is the goal for this planet, for certain beings, for it to be dark so that they can feed off of that energy of fear, of unhappiness. This is supposed to be a shadow planet. Supposed to be. You heard the word? Supposed to be. But we're not a shadow planet. We are a planet that can have the consistency to be dark or light, but also balance, because you do need the darkness to balance out the light. That's what we got to understand about that shadow self. It's not just, oh, I'm holy in all of that, and oh, I'm bad to bone. You see that? That's not important. It's to balance. When we get that balance, remove the fear, insert joy, insert the light, respect the shadow, and understanding what the shadow is. We're good. Uh-oh, we're running over time.
Yeah. Anyway, I was getting ready to tell you that. You can run to commercial, but I'm going to just leave with this, okay? The one thing that has helped me overcome all of the things and the horrors and the whatever I've been through in the past is understanding that God is today. Today's God is not yesterday's God. Yesterday's God does not exist in the
Bye bye.
past. And with
Bye bye.
that, I leave you. Namaste. Love and light to all of you. Blessings. Bye, Mamacita.
Bye
Take
bye,
care,
people.
love. Take care, people. Have a great night.
Wrong commercial.